We will begin. Hi, folks. See, I just want to keep an eye. If I'm talking and you folks see people as attendees and I need to promote, please give me the heads up. Awesome.
And Anime, if I disappear, it's I get a call from a doctor at a certain point that I
Okay.
don't disappear.
No, of course. Thank you. So let's just jump right in. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us today. Lynn and Gina, I was wondering if you guys could enlighten us in terms of any decisions or talk about a survey, a forum for the Wheelock neighborhood, any dates. I'm wondering if you guys have any information to share.
Yeah, no dates yet. I have it on the milestones, and I figured we were going to talk about this during the working group meeting tomorrow.
Okay. You have your working group on. Okay, I thought it was on Monday. All right, that's cool.
Typically, but we've had some schedule conflicts, and that's why we had to move it. But as soon as we determine something, I will definitely let you know right away, Anime.
Okay, no, that's cool. So TBA. Now, what do you guys think about? So Brian, the traffic engineer, did send out some questions. And so what did you guys feel, Lynn and Gina, about turning, I don't know if anyone else has seen them, but turning them into a survey?
I think they could easily be turned into a survey. I don't know if you want to pare them down or not, or, but I thought that information gathered, if people answered those questions, would be useful.
Okay.
To have.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do it. We can put out a survey just as the questions are written, or if if people want to talk about it and.
Should I try and pull them up, or can you guys pull them up? I don't know. This might be above my skill set to.
I could probably do it.
Wait, let me see if I could, because I think if we could, let me see.
Tina, do you have the latest one? Or, I mean, I think mine was.
Yeah. I have the one that you had marked up, Lynn.
Right, I have that one too. So.
Okay. And let's see.
I don't know if anybody else gave you questions, that's all.
No, there were no other comments.
Okay.
Anime,
Okay,
how many people have signed up on the email for the Wheelock email group?
Yeah, 13, Tracy. So,
okay.
So last week we decided to, Christine Trierweiler, just to recap, she said we could send, a one-time email to the folks who registered or who joined in the Zoom email.
Okay, all right.
And then so I was supposed to do that. A lot of crazy happened in my life this week, but I think if we have this survey, or if we're going to have a survey, it would be nice to mention that, because that might entice people then to sign up for it. But I have one other question, and that is, of those 13 email addresses we have, some are obvious to me that I know which residents they are, and others aren't. It's like MKU 1329 at, and I'm like, I can't figure out what name that is. So I'm wondering, and I know Mike has that document of the surrounding neighborhoods and trying to put email addresses, that do we stick with that, that simple, just give us your email and then we figure it out? Or in this email that we send out saying that we've got a survey coming, we've got another forum coming, we'd really love to create a Wheelock neighborhood specific email, bank. Do we change it and find out names and addresses, email addresses?
So
what do you guys
Definitely.
think?
Definitely.
Okay. Yeah.
I would say yes, but make it like
And
optional.
street, contact, say, we need your contact, and contact.
I
not
think
email,
you,
we need
yeah,
your street.
respond back to the email and say, can you provide your name and address?
Right.
Okay. So then,
This meeting is being recorded.
sorry, who said what? Did I?
About being recorded. Just think it was
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't hear.
It sounded like background. Somebody sent, sounded like background.
Oh, okay. Oh, we are being recorded. Okay, so I'm going to share screen and I'm going to pull that up. So, but before I do that, what I'm hearing is do not forward that link on the Dale Street project that just asks for the Wheelock email address. What I'm hearing is maybe we create just a quick Google form, name, address, email. Yes?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super. Okay, so yeah.
And I mean, I think maybe I'm jumping ahead. If an email is going to go, this is just to those 13, it could be, thank you. Not as many people signed up for this in your area as we would like. We definitely want to build a coalition here or a community group to be able to work with you. Can you pass this on to other people, your neighbors?
Yeah.
And encourage them to join. And I guess if you had the survey at the time, why not give it to them?
Yeah. Okay. All righty. Great. All right. So that's 2 emails. We'll do the Zoom emails that one time and then we'll do the 13 that did sign up saying, please share with your neighbors and share I'll just do a quick Google form, name, address, email, correct? Anything else?
Yes, but with the survey or without the survey in the email?
Well, it depends how quickly that can get going. I think we can announce that a survey is coming if Mike agrees to it. But I'll share screen now and see, oh goody. Let's see if I can figure this out. All right, can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So these are the questions. Lynn, do you want to tell us where we got these? Please.
Well, I guess, Tina, it's the Air Streets consultant that prepared these questions. I just made some recommended edits. Tina, if you want to go through, you probably spoke with Brian.
Yeah, no, these were fine. I think these made sense. And these are straight from Brian at Niche Engineering. And we thought these were good questions. We also, so these were fine. So I think we could roll these out.
So, for example, the first one, how many household cars typically commuted to work before the pandemic? So are we going to give them like ranges so that we can, once the data is all collected, versus people just plugging in numbers?
Yes, I think you had a point. Oh, go ahead, Lynn.
I was saying it's easier to look at, to do averages of the, or to gather responses if you give them multiple choices.
Yeah, exactly. Then to go through the data would just be a nightmare.
Because if you just ask them for their response, then you have to read each individual one.
Exactly.
Versus the survey will do it for you if you give them multiple choice.
Okay. All right.
So we could do 1, 2, 3, 4 or more, like that, I don't think people have them, or maybe even just do 1, 2, 3 and then more.
Yeah. Okay. Tim Bonfatti, hello, my friend.
Hi. Sorry, guys, I was on another call.
No worries. No worries. I am just wondering, based on your experience, have you guys ever done a transportation survey like this? I mean,
we haven't done it, but I think it's a great idea.
good.
That I'm aware of, we haven't done it.
Okay.
unless our traffic consultants did it, in their assignment that I wasn't, but I don't remember it being done, but I think it's a great idea.
Okay,
And I like the idea of having, like a Survey Monkey thing where you can pick an answer and then have a general open question like number 5 here.
yeah,
I think that's a great idea.
great.
I
Because
mean, I don't know how much, it's like any of these things, it depends on how much participation you get, but
right.
at least I think it shows an effort to try to get to the root of that problem.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think what would, because at the last meeting, we were talking about survey or forum, but maybe this could be in conjunction, maybe this survey first, and then a forum to address, the concerns, release the data that we've collected,
Right.
etc. And so that could be, it could work together versus an either or.
Yeah.
I know this is like splitting hairs, sorry, and it's not usually my characteristic, but the word survey to me, survey is about someone's opinion, and this is about gathering information.
Okay.
So to me, it's a questionnaire.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's a little bit more factual, and I like, to Tim's point of what he just said, is trying to get to the root of things. So I like, transportation questionnaire or something about gathering more specific data. If there's an intro, I do like that, but survey doesn't seem like the right word.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. You're right. Okay. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, I almost wonder to sharing a preview, because if the hope is we've got 15 signed up, but the pool out there is 100, saying, hey, this is the questionnaire we want to share with you and your neighbors. We'd love to have more of your neighbors participating.
Yeah.
It'll probably be sent out. We're going to refine it. Any other questions you think you may want to add? And more important, this is the current list that we have. Do you know other neighbors who might be interested?
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so a sample. Because
So for those 13 that do care, they might make more effort to get us up to
spread the
30.
word. Okay, I like that. Okay, super. And then what Mike had said in the past, because we sent out, Tim Baker created those postcards that we sent out to the neighborhood before the November 2nd forum. So Mike Quinlan had said perhaps we could do another drop, saying again to really reinforce that we truly want to hear from the neighbors. Maybe that a survey is up and send a postcard, perhaps. That could be another way to really target the neighborhood as well.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, even put the questionnaire in it. In that,
yeah, the link.
Because some people may not, respond better.
Yeah. No, great idea.
Is there any sense of those, what was it, 230 homes, how many people are over 65?
Ooh, that I haven't the faintest idea.
Well, I'm just saying for the email part and the links. So if then on the card, there needs to be a phone number for people to call, or, something, I don't know, or an email, but just, I think
paper one sent to them.
I think you just, if it's an elder population, I mean, some are great. I don't know the level of income around there, but not everybody is accessible that way. So
No,
just to think about the language with that.
Good point. Good point. Okay. Yeah, that's great. So, Lynn, would this be something Left Field puts together? Okay, cool. So, if you guys could put that together, and then we can pass it through all the chain of people having to approve them, that would be great. And we can't hear you, Lynn. Are you talking? Still can't hear you.
And she's not on mute.
How weird. Oh. We heard her earlier, did we not?
Yeah.
I'm losing my mind.
Anytime.
Still nothing, Lynn. Gina, can you read her lips?
Yeah, left field has Morse code.
All right. Oh, well, maybe so it sounds like Gina, sounds like left field would put this together either.
Yeah, I mean, we've
And I
done this
think you like
before.
Survey Monkey.
Yeah, so we'll start putting things together and then go back and forth. And then when it's ready, we can just have the powers give us a thumbs up. So.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, so we're going to put the survey together. We're going to send an email to those who did, who attended the Zoom meeting. We're going to send an email to the 13, give them a sample questions, and then also, the Google form that is included for name, address.
Are you doing you're doing the email? So you just want us to do the survey?
Yes, please.
Multiple.
Now, do you guys, I mean, I'm happy to do the Google form because it's just really 3 questions,
Yeah.
you know, name, address, email, but do you want to do that? Or I'm happy to do that.
Well, where's Tim? Tim's right here. So we're going to have, Tim, you could do this. And Lynn just texted me back. I'm not sure why you can't hear her, but she did say that we will provide answer multiple choice.
Okay, good.
Anyway, okay, yeah. So we can do that.
Okay,
So
so
Google form you did last time. Tim, can you do that?
No problem.
okay, lovely.
And just everything at the bottom should be tagged. If you have a question, here's the email that you call. That you email. Here's the Facebook page, here's the link to the website, like all that contact information at the end of the survey, you know, on the bottom footer needs to be there. So for what the card for everything that we're kind of rolling up that baseline of contacts. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you. Awesome. All right. Is there a question in there? I can't, because I'm sharing a screen, I can't.
Oh, there is.
Do you want to read it? And I'll stop.
You want me to read it?
I'll stop sharing screen. Oh, so, okay, I see it now. Okay, so Chris McHugh Potts, it doesn't make sense to survey only Wheelock area neighborhood about commuter traffic and their commuting behavior. Medfield gets an abundance of traffic from Walpole, Norfolk commuters traveling through town en route to Boston and back. So that's where volume comes from, not people who live in the Wheelock area. This was a key finding from our own study with Medfield PD from many years ago. It hasn't changed. Okay, noted. And I think at the last meeting, also Mike Quinlan had mentioned that at the next forum, he would invite the chief of police and DPW, you know, to be part of the conversation, to just cast a wider net, to really signify that we really want more voices.
I tend to, like, I think it all depends. The questionnaire, you know, I don't know that that's the core part of the data that they're gathering for the traffic study, because you don't know what percentage of the people you're getting. To me, the way a lot of the questions, it's more about what are other factors that we need to consider along the way, right? So my assumption is Brian, traffic engineer, isn't using this as like, you know, this is more anecdotal, you know, on such and such a street. That's how I view it.
Yeah.
Ways,
you know,
but my assumption, but we probably want to validate, Brian, is they do need to have, and they are doing as, you know, rigid of a traffic study as we can.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
I think to your point, I think that's true. To the question that Chris had put is that it ends up being a much wider, or maybe more of a town-wide concern in terms of how traffic is coming into town and traveling through town, which is not what we're trying to focus on. So I'm hesitant because it starts to look into other issues throughout town that's not necessarily caused by the school or the new school.
Right. Okay. All right. And we can talk to Brian about that, you know, when we have, and that, I'm sure all that will be part of the mix. So, okay, great. Super. And Emily. Hi, Emily. I wonder if you could, yes.
Hi, sorry, my 10-year-old is desperate to eat lunch with me, so you're all eating lunch with my 10-year-old.
Hi, 10-year-old.
Yes.
Okay, sorry to disturb lunch.
Oh gosh, no. It's life.
Yeah, no, it is, and we're rolling with it. So Emily, last time we discussed maybe you had some samples, and maybe you could email that to the group at some point, or I don't know if you wanted to.
Yes, thank you for the reminder. My apologies.
All right,
Yes, I will
no
send those
problem.
along.
Please. And I can't believe next week's Thanksgiving, so life is just cuckoo. But I think we wanted to move forward in terms of, Tracy's point a couple of weeks back, now that we've got approval and now we're moving towards, that the golden, date of the fall of next year, voting, what are the 10 things we need to know, or how we're going to really just kind of put that out there.
So what I will say is the samples that I will send, I'll send them directly to you, and you could sort of distribute them.
Thank you.
So previous school, I would say town slightly smaller than Medfield, but sort of similar, I'd say outlook or reverence for their schools. What worked well was there was just a basic timeline. In other words, these were the decisions that were made. How did we get from the beginning to where we are now? And that was very helpful because some people will not pay attention to the town vote until the day before or the week before, right?
Quickly, I'm sorry, Anna, can you move Lynn to panelist? I'm sorry, Emily.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
So a general timeline, and that's usually a nice one to hand out. And then I think what would be helpful while we have time here is maybe to brainstorm, what do you feel are the most important topics? And so this is more of a gauge of what do you feel the town is comfortable with, and what do you feel the town has huge concerns on? I would say, based on the conversation that we've had to date, we should have a traffic one. And sort of just lay out what the issues are with traffic, where the data is, et cetera, et cetera. I would say, having heard the conversations, I'm less concerned about the educational quality or like why a school, because that seems to be pretty well, schools are a great value within the town. So I don't know how you feel about that one, but I'd be less concerned. And we should also do one on the money. So what will this mean for my personal tax? What does this mean for town finances? Does this change our rating? All of that stuff. And then Tina, can you think of some other concerns that we might have?
Well, yeah, I think you covered them. I mean, the big one, as you mentioned, is traffic or transportation through the neighborhood. And I think one that might come up is, the athletic field. So I know that there was some making sure that, that we were basically field neutral. And so we just want to also make sure that with the new building that we're not displacing any of the fields.
That's a great point. Maybe open space recreation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry to not understand this, but these are going to be forums, or they're going to be part of like a talking point type of thing?
No.
both?
So what I have done in the past, which has been helpful, is one like an 8.5 by 11, 1 or 2 pager on
Like
specific
fact
topics.
sheets. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That we can
And
do. Okay.
during normal times, they're on a table at a town event or a social event where people, if they want specific information. What also helps is that they tend to be a little more graphic than the FAQ, so they can be broken down into pieces and shared on social
like
media.
what we had talked about before. Yeah, no, I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we can piecemeal the topics. But I would also go back to the really, even though it was voted for the why the Wheelock site, I think we do have to constantly remind people why Wheelock was chosen. And then I think what's another important piece is what happens to Dale.
Yes.
You know, I think that's in a lot of hearts and minds of folks as well.
And just to that point, I'm sorry, because you probably did. It's not like when it's vacated, it's immediately going to be boarded up. People can use the gym, the space will be open. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's too far down the line, but I'm assuming that at least the gym will be available to the community. And that it's not going to be, you know, shuttered down. I think if there's some answers to those and people know that that's available.
Yep. What other themes are we missing, folks?
One more that I was just thinking is features of the new building. If you just want to highlight what the design will be.
Okay, yeah.
You see this as like a drip, like one of every 3 weeks, kind of a drip campaign, but then it's written in a way that it can then just be consolidated, or have we?
Yes, because I think what you mean by the drip is like taking one of those themes and putting it out there on social media. Is that what you mean? And I think that was the idea.
Yeah, like the posting campaign you talked about, just one of these little.
Yeah, taking a theme a week or something or other, a theme every, 2 themes a week or something.
Yeah, I think let's just think through it. Just manage workload, and if if you went like every week, I think you're too much, right? I think we're taking on more. Like we'll run out of material by early February.
Okay.
This is just my thought. Now maybe we want to flood, make sure it's really out there. If you think every 2 to 3 weeks, you have a little more time to put something of substance there. It also allows you to be a little more fluid. Like what happens to Dale? That's a great question. I don't know that we really, we know it's going to be A or B or C. So it could also be a little more moving with the times.
All right, I like that realistic check-in, Tim. Yeah, okay. And then maybe we can, as we propose a theme, maybe as you say, we're fluid, and then maybe we can dive deeper as we get more information and
yeah, but I love here's 10 topics, and we are always thinking, looking at it by month, something like that, or the next,
okay.
We're looking at the next 3. Overall, I love the idea. I think we get more bang for the effort.
No, and I think that's a good point. So if we know if fall 2021 if that is our vote, we can maybe look at how many months we've got and then maybe map it out that way. I think that's a smarter way of doing it. Thank you.
I think that's a great suggestion, Tim. And what's also nice about these is if you're speaking to a specific group, again, things are different in these times, but sometimes we would speak to the local senior center, and they had a specific topic. It was great to have a targeted takeaway. So you weren't giving them everything, but just what was appropriate to their specific concerns. So it allows you to have kind of an a la carte topic deck.
All right. I mean, would that be something in the lines of, I don't know if you guys saw Mike Quinlan's video on, or little taping on Medfield TV, which he did a week. I should send it out. Sorry, guys. I should have reminded everyone. Anyways, I'll send it out. And, but maybe in that same vein, if we, depending on our timeline, if we are doing this drip campaign, so to speak, and maybe taking a topic, and maybe Medfield TV would feature a topic every couple of weeks or 3 weeks or something or other, perhaps.
That would be great.
It's a great idea.
Resources.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for stuff that's relevant. So
Yeah, for sure.
You can also watch Mike's interview on Facebook. The link's on the Facebook page.
Oh, thank you, Tim. Okay, thank you. I haven't been on Facebook in a while, but okay, I'll take a look. Thanks. Any other ideas?
I'm sorry. I was thinking, for me, what would be helpful, and you can say, is if at some point, maybe towards the end of the year, we had more of a planning session where we really did map out what we wanted to do between now and at least June.
Yeah.
As opposed to taking it in smaller bites. And then the meetings that we have on Thursdays are about how we're executing some of the things we want to do. I like what we talked about today, but I know Anna Mae, you and I have talked about at times having smaller, before it was meeting at people's houses to, address their needs in different communities. We can't do it. Would we do it by Zoom, targeting seniors, targeting and using these materials? What Emily's talking about is materials to use in other venues. So I just feel like, for me, I would feel better if we had a time that we could put aside where we planned out a little bit more how we want to go towards getting this vote out in the different aspects of it. So that's just how I would operate and write it up. And then we're kind of looking at it that way. And towards that end, I would personally really love to connect with a couple of other school districts that just went through a vote. And I'd like to see the work that they did. I don't know if Needham is one. I'm happy to do the legwork of connecting with somebody there. But I just need inspiration as to how they did it, how they worded things. And I need to draw from that. So that's my other idea. Between now and January, I feel like during the holidays, we're kind of getting our infrastructure in place to kind of get out of it. So those are, and just an understanding in that planning process, what the budget is, what our resources are. Do we have a la carte to that PR firm? Is that going to be continued? And, who's printing? I need, for me as a committee member, just more understanding and just a longer viewpoint. So that's what I think. So that's for everybody else to decide if it's good for them. But for me, I'm sometimes thinking we're just only working in 14-day chunks, which made sense going up to that smaller vote, not the big vote of the location, but now that we got this longer term goal, I think we can make a longer term plan.
Yeah, and I think that's what Mike definitely wants us to do. So I started a document which has, a task, who's responsible, and the date, in terms of, I think there's a word for that. But anyways, but I think you're right, Tracy. So by the next meeting, I'll have that, and then we can maybe break off into smaller groups to be more efficient.
So just to expand on Tracy's point, and Tracy, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that really gets at sort of a comprehensive outlook, so that you make sure that you're not missing things. So as you were talking, I was trying to write down different buckets. So we need to know our audience. What are the different audience that we have, right? There's school parents, non-school parents, seniors, new people, business. So sometimes you go to the business bureau, senior homes, obviously the Board of Selectmen, if it's a larger group. So writing down all your different audiences, and they're going to overlap, and that's okay. But just sort of figuring that.
I think we already did that. Anna Mae
Yeah.
Okay.
did that
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
So we got that sort of started, but we could share
Our
it with other
community
people.
partners, we call them.
Community partners.
Yeah.
Preschools are also really good too, because they're future feeders into the schools.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tracy was on that,
So
thankfully.
you got your audience, and then content. We were just talking about content, and sort of where we could focus on that. Timing, to Tim's point, which is, between now and then, how many weeks do we have? What's the frequency of communication, and where we go with that? There's the medium, and Tracy brought up this point earlier, which is if you're only on email, then you're not going to hit everybody. So email, social media, sandwich boards, printed mailings, signs. What do we have in our bag of tricks? And then of course budget, which is from now until then, what's the budget, and how do you make it fit to the intent? So I think for me, those are the 5 things that I would put in this, and please interject if I've missed a key one. So audience, content, timing, medium, and budget.
Okay, great.
So I think having this information, I agree with Tracy, we should get a plan about it and sort of lay out how it unfolds and as the design unfolds. See, remember, there's gonna be a lot of information developing over the next few months around the design. And so, it probably should be synced. So some of the stuff we're doing in the early part really isn't really about what the school, what looks like, for instance, or some of those, because that's really going to develop over the next few months. I think we need to just always be careful about that borderline, not crossing that line into advocacy. So, and that's really a careful line. Is there a pack? I get confused. I've asked this question before, I know.
Yeah, it's developing, Tim.
Okay. This was kind of like a bridge to a pack. That's at least in the spring.
So it's really,
yeah,
it needs to be educationally based, right? Not advocacy based. And I just think it just needs to be mindful that a lot, like we do a lot. So people really don't pay attention until, you're talking the spring at the earliest before. People just don't pay. It just is the way it is. I mean, you do as much of this. That term drip is a good idea because
I like that.
Is a good image, because really what you're doing is you're just sort of dripping and dripping, and then it's a kind of a faucet really in the fall, or it's really, that's when people are going to be looking to pay attention. So, and that's when we'll have the most information, because the design will be complete, as far as we're going, the schematic design will be completed. So I think, I'm not sure you need to do something every month, for instance, until you get closer to where people will pretend, but it doesn't hurt. I'm just saying, I think you'll see it'll be a less than overwhelming, reaction to it until you start getting into the spring, and, and then things kind of, depending on what happens with COVID, but things kind of go dormant in the summer, and then it'll really ramp up radically in the fall. And so, so it's kind of a slow build up, just the way people pay attention to these things. And then it really becomes much more of an obvious, flow of information in the fall. So that I just would be mindful of that.
Okay. No.
And we'll have a design, in I don't know when the schematic design is scheduled to be done, probably in the summer, right?
We'll have it approved by the MSBA. Yes.
I mean, but it's done probably in June, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
I think that's the plan.
Yeah. So we'll have, a lot of information, come out in this late spring.
So
The schematic
Tim,
design.
let me ask you a question, because I actually I think it's important, and I want to make sure I understand what's there's education, there's advocacy, and then there's marketing. And as the only area I was going to add when Emily went through, audience, content, timing, medium, budget, was target. And at least right now, the target is a successful vote, right? A successful town meeting where we get X%, and I forget what X is. And then, as we were reminded in the last meeting, making sure people then show up to vote so that we actually get it. I would say that's our target. What I'd ask is there anything that's not appropriate, right? Within reason, right? As long as, the building, the group is all saying we want to go forward. But I would say there, I don't want to be blatant, and I want to be, extremely transparent. I want to call out risks when I see them. But are we okay saying that, or is that saying we do need to be a little more cautious? And because I think, I'm not saying I have to do one or the other, but I want to know.
I do think you need to be cautious about that definition of the target. I agree, and so building committees, can certainly express their desire for the project to pass, and then that's their, obviously that's why people are donating, volunteering all this time. But and it really relates to more the ballot than it does town meeting, but the ballot initiative for the debt exclusion is it's very careful not to cross that line of using town resources to advocate for a vote, a positive vote. That's and it's a judgment call. And then, they're very willing to help you with that, the state with that. But that's why you have PACs, because they can do whatever they want advocating, but vote yes on so-and-so day. But we can just sort of educate. And of course, as part of the education, we're educating people why this is a good project. Obviously, I don't think that's not advocating a yes vote on, it's just, this is why it's a good project. You see what I mean? It's kind of there's a line you can cross, and you can cross it fairly simple. Unfortunately, I know from firsthand experience, you can cross it fairly unintentionally if you're not careful. So I would say, mostly we should be around town meeting, because you cross it, it really does apply more to the ballot. And so we be careful. Hopefully you wouldn't cross it. You try not to cross it in general, but town meeting isn't really where you get sanctioned for it. You get sanctioned for it around the ballot.
The ballot is get out and vote, right?
Yeah, you can always, people, encouraging people to vote is one thing. Encouraging people to vote yes is another.
Got it.
That's the encouraging people to vote's a good thing, but I think and educating people about what the benefits is a good thing. That's what our job is, I think, and I believe, and I think that's the case. I think it's more around when you cross the line about advocating a yes vote. I guess it's kind of a nuance, but
or saying we need this.
Real. What?
Or saying we need this, or
that's what I mean. There's a lot of, and it's an interpretation. And having unfortunately been through it on a project, you end up getting into a hearing with them, and they ask about the context of when you wrote these things and what was happening around the town, and so it's a very it's just a careful thing. That's why having that PAC's important.
Yeah.
So they can do all that, and we really just should be educational around it. And even there, I wouldn't spend a ton of money sending public money with like sending out monthly newsletters and things like that, because you use big postage, versus doing things that are like, Left Field is going to be producing documents, and so those will become that's part of their job, and that becomes part of what we put on a website. That's fine, it's educational. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, I think it's great. I think it circles back kind of to Tracy's original point, right? We need a plan, right? And if that plan,
I think it does circle back to that, right?
Yeah, and then that plan also incorporates, I won't say lines, but yeah, the lane that we are, focused on, and making sure that plan stays in there. I just added, and Anna I'll share the notes. I'm sure I always do. But like the medium is a PAC. We would establish that, or at some point it sits outside, and that probably eliminates some of the some of the work we would.
The one thing that we do, I'm sure, and I'm sure Lynn would say this is done at Left Field. I mean, we on all our projects is what we call is a roadshow with the building committee, in essence, but it usually means we have at that point a project to show people, like the project's been through schematic design, and it's also when you start getting attention. But it really, it's a 30 minute presentation on the project, what the educational benefits are, what the project looks like, what the costs are when you get there, all of that. And you go and you present it to whoever will listen to you, the Council on Aging, New in Town, any of the fraternal, to the extent they're having any more fraternal organizations, like the Lions Club or something. I don't know how much even that's happening, but any of those sort of things. But that roadshow is, we usually, that's the last 2 or 3 months of the project. We end up with that roadshow and the soup, like that cast of characters that might present on it. Mike would be involved, Jeff, you know, those sort of things, and the architect and the OPM might have a role. And I think, you know, the plan's a great idea. So I think that there are appropriate things we can start to talk to people about in January, February, March, and April before we actually have enough meat on the bones to be able to do a roadshow.
Okay.
That's an excellent point, Tim. I would suggest, well, just when you're doing the roadshow, that also becomes important because you're going to have to divide and conquer. There's no one person who can meet with everybody. So it's nice to have sort of a consistent message. I would also highly suggest getting a representative from the AG's office to speak to the school building committee about the fine line between advocacy.
That's a great idea.
I've gone through that training once with another school building committee, and it was great because it gave an opportunity to run through what could be appropriate, not appropriate, and it also allows.
And you can ask questions, you know, of them, and they're very good. I mean, they're very helpful.
And they will also review any content that you put out there. So, for example, in Active Boxborough, there was a poster that was created right before the vote. We sent it to their office, said, do you see any concerns about this? And they said, you know, maybe you should tweak these words or make small suggestions. But it's really great because that preemptively allows you to, you know, double check so you don't get into hot water.
You know, in one of our districts, they put the kibosh because we sent them the language to do a sandwich board in front of an elementary school where the voting was going to occur, one of the places. And it just said, vote on new high school, November 4th. And they wouldn't allow us to do that. They wouldn't, they said that's not an appropriate way to use town property for, you know, because the unspoken thing is that all these parents would be dropping off kids and that would get them to see this sign every day. And when we showed that, because as Emily says, you can run things by them and they'll tell you what you know, they'll be clear about it. They said that's not appropriate.
So then, but if you had like 4 places, maybe it's you know, that's all great. It's really good information.
So when do you
that idea of having that attorney general rep, they usually do volunteer to do that. Come to visit a building committee and say, here's where the line is on advocacy and education.
No, that's great. So my question is, when would be optimal timing for that? I'm thinking maybe before we start pushing things out. So
I'm putting it in like January.
In the next few months, anytime would be good.
okay. And who would organize that? Do I just call the AG's office or?
Yeah, I think you can just it's the Office of Campaign Finance, I think.
Okay.
And I think if you call them and say, you know, you're representing a building committee and you'd like to, if somebody could spend a half an hour in front of your building committee to talk about that, what's appropriate and what isn't.
Yeah, from what I remember, that it was half an hour, 45 minutes with questions. And it was it's also nice to time it when they're, you know, maybe when we're in different phases. So that I think after the PSR is submitted and maybe going through the MSBA, that would be a great time.
So
content wise.
Okay, so after the PSR submission, okay, which is in December.
Lynn, do you agree? Would that be good timing? Yeah.
Okay. All right. That is a brilliant idea. Thank you. Okay, great. And also, I know we need to wrap up in the next 10 minutes or so, but I'm wondering, Tim and Bob, in terms of lessons learned, you know, in Medfield, I know when we built the last school, are there any things that kind of haunt you, so to speak, that let's never, ever, ever do this again, or we must absolutely do so? Just, you know, I'd love to glean some insight on any lessons.
I think Tim would agree that the first lesson is do it right the first time.
Yeah.
You know, the history is something, but at the risk of following the brilliant suggestion, I'm new to this, but in my context on the warrant committee, I'm really an observer to stay current. And of course, we'll at some point with the warrant committee, will deep dive into the details as we have to opine on each article. But one of the things that came to mind as you were all speaking is I just got another note on the townwide master planning. And my context for that is there are some things that are in the school program or in this building project and some things that are outside, but there's a broad town, context. And I think it was made up, for example, the discussion on the traffic. Some of it relates to the local neighborhood and it's part of the school project. Others are outside the school project and it has to do with other departments and whether it's the chief of police. And I think listening to other meetings, the discussions on sidewalks, for example, is that, there are, or even the use of the Dale Street property. I think we'd be careful to not try to solve all the issues of the town. Because from the warrant committee, we look at all the issues of the town, and I think it'll be important in some context of this communication to identify for people what's involved and what's not involved, so that if it's a question of the traffic of the town, that's not in the issue of the school building committee, for example, and I think identifying that as it's come up in different conversations, I think is important. But I think what you're doing in terms of my experience from 20 years ago is take nothing for granted and you do exactly what you're doing, which is very, very constructive listening and addressing those issues that have to do with the school building and what that context is. And to identify those items which are not, you can engage those people and say, hey, we've had this conversation, whether it's sidewalks or, traffic signals or the like. But, you don't want to put that into the heads of the people, the big bucket, because that's, I think in some cases, those are tangential, but not directly related to the school. So that's my.
Yeah, and I would agree with Bob. And for those of you who don't know, Bob had to step in. The high school failed on its first run at it. And Bob stepped in and essentially, in many ways, just focused attention to people basically sort of saying, so this thing won't happen unless you engage and stay involved and be involved. And so I think and we wouldn't have a high school if he didn't do that, frankly. So I think.
Well, thank you, Bob, because I have a daughter. I had 3 kids in that new high school, one who's a junior with Anna Mae's daughter. So thank you.
Well, I think that Tim's point as he was speaking is that, what we really emphasized and what really drove us was we had whatever this then equivalent of the state building support was at risk. And, it's a similar situation. The building situation was required, but we were at risk of losing this amount, which is similar to what we're getting now from the state building committee. So I think however we emphasize that this is the cost, you demonstrate the need, and then you show the benefit long term. And as Tim was saying, and not to interrupt him, appreciate the comment, and that we just good, strong communication, not advocacy. I think, people are gonna have to make up their own minds. It's not a question of advocacy. It's a question of clarity, I think.
Yeah, and I think I was just reinforcing your point. I think we can't solve all the problems. We have a very defined issue that we're going with, and we don't want to get down in a lot of rabbit holes that it's not really what our job is. So I think that's a good point.
Well, I'm going to affirm that what you did say was brilliant, because that reminds me of a really good point on a previous job that I worked on, which we almost made a flow chart of what happens So, your special town meeting, if you vote yes, then it goes to ballot. If you vote no, then, what are the next steps? Because there will always be that question or that comment. If we vote no, we'll just try again. And it's not that simple. I think that is a really, really good, to Tim Bonfatti's point, it's about education. So it's not advocacy, but just sort of explaining what happens with these different decisions and where we go from there.
So to that point, I don't know if we can get, it might be premature for this, but what would be interesting for me to see would be how many people voted on that last public safety building project, actually came out and voted, how many were for it, how many were, against it. And even if we had it a little bit broken down by the precincts to see who came out and who didn't, as we're thinking about just kind of getting that message out to vote, that was relatively, it wasn't 20 years ago, it was like 5 years ago. And it was probably, this is going to be the biggest expenditure we've done. That was the biggest until time. And I just think just looking at those numbers would just help me understand how close it was. I don't even remember anything about it. So, but it was it was something that wasn't a school, but it was a big building project. And I would love to just see that data as part of our planning process.
Could you get that data, Tracy?
I'm happy to call the town hall, but I don't want to call without anybody's authority, because I'm gonna have to say, oh, I'm working with Anna Mae and Tim, and I'm gonna use all your names. And when I call over to the person there, but I just want to make sure I have authority to call. I will call. I used to be able to find it when I was helping Anna Mae with her school committee run. I would get online, but I don't think they post some of those votes as far back as I needed them to look, but it's public information. So I'm happy to do it. I'll do it if I have your blessing.
Yeah, I mean, I would email Christine and just say, where do I get this information?
Oh yeah, no, I know where to get it.
All right then.
I just, before I call, I just want to make sure. I don't want you getting an email from somebody that Tracy Rogers called. Who is she? I mean, if people think people think it's worth it, I just think, well, I'm gonna call because I want to see it anyway. So
yeah, no, great. All right, so it looks like we've got some great things to do. The emails, this questionnaire, not a survey, and also I'll contact the AG's office, and hopefully we'll find out more information about the PAC that's hopefully forming, and I like how everybody contributed to just contextualizing, the long-term plan. So I'll work on that over the holidays as well, and beam it through some folks so we can have that as our compass moving forward.
I think we should also put on the list contacts for Tracy to ask questions of different school building committees.
If we could find some different projects, just even what their signage look like and a press release from them. I would love to just have that in because when you're writing something, it's just great to see how somebody else crafted it.
Mm-hmm.
So who will do that? Who can get some?
I have some contacts, but I know that Mike Quinlan and Left Field probably have more than I do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was looking at an email that came in. Wow, what are you looking for specifically? Some stuff on similar projects,
It's my understanding how other projects dealt, or what their
communications plan were, what their output was.
Yeah, we have the. I'll get some of that together.
Oh, goody! Thank you, Tim. Sample communication pieces. Okay, great.
And Tracy, just to be clear, when you and your children walk through the high school, it is Tim Bonifati work that made this possible. He somehow found how to get the the 10 pounds into the 8-pound bag and making that numbers and design work. So it's his creativity and work that got that.
We were a good team, Bob. back
Team
then.
effort. I believe that.
Great. I have one left. And it's very sad with this COVID that the kids are not in that school, but it will end and they will return. So, but it served us well.
Indeed.
Indeed, it did. All righty, wonderful. So great. So we'll obviously not meet next week, but we'll meet the week after, and then we'll hit the ground running. Thank you, folks.
All right.
Oh, there's two questions. There's two questions.
Oh, yeah. Okay, please. Do you want to read them?
Yep. This is from Chris. IRS prohibits any nonprofit like PTO or NCPE from advocating for a yes or no vote too. So I think that, I think that is important for us to kind of get out to folks, because so many parents will be excited about it and people to know how to handle that. In particular, me. So the third one is, what percentage of project cost did MSBA give us for the high school?
I don't remember, I can't remember obviously specifically. It was more percentage than we're gonna get here. I know that, but I don't remember, Chris, what that was.
All righty. Well, thank you, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your holiday and be
Yes.
well. Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Ciao. Thank you. Thank you.